Okay, I'm back for part 2. So, we start on the post-war years. So that, what I just told you in part 1, if you just watched that, which I'm guessing you did, Queen Mary has just left, well, actually when I told you, she was serving in the war. So now she has left the war, and she's delivering war brides to Canada after the war's over. So, after delivering these war brides to Canada, Queen Mary made her fastest ever crossing, returning to Southampton in only 3 days, 22 hours, and 42 minutes at an average speed of just under 32 knots. From September 1946 to July of 1947, Queen Mary was refitted for passenger service, adding air conditioning, upgrading her berth configuration to 711 first class, 707 cabin class, and 577 tourist class. Following the refit, Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth dominated the transatlantic passenger trade as Cunard White Star's two-ship weekly express service through the latter half of the 40s and well into the 50s. This proved highly profitable for Cunard, as the company was renamed in 1947. On January 1st, 1949, Queen Mary ran aground off Cherbourg, France. She was refloated the next day and returned to service. In 1958, the first transatlantic flight by a jet aircraft began a completely new era of competition. With a London-New York travel time of just 7 to 8 hours now possible with new aircraft, demand for a sea crossing of the ocean fell away markedly. On some voyages, winters especially, Queen Mary sailed into harbor with more crew than passengers, though both she and Queen Elizabeth still averaged over 1,000 passengers per crossing in the middle 1960s. By 1965, the entire Cunard transatlantic fleet was operating at a loss. Hoping to continue financing Queen Elizabeth II, which was then under construction at Brown Shipyard, Cunard mortgaged the majority of the fleet. Due to a combination of age, lack of public interest, inefficiency on a new market, and damaging after effects to national Seamen's as in the crew members, Cunard announced that both Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth would be retired from service and sold off. Many offers were submitted, and the bid of $3.45 million, or 1.2 million pounds, from Long Beach, California, surpassed the Japanese scrap merchants. Queen Mary was featured in the film Assault on a Queen, 1966, starring Frank Sinatra. This picture is Queen Mary steaming into New York City in 1961. It's a little grainier than some other copies, but I couldn't find them without copyright on. So, in Long Beach, she's a tourist attraction, hotel, museum, and events facility now. She was purchased in 1967, and Long Beach cleared every area of the ship below C deck, which was then called R deck after 1950, to lessen passenger confusion, as the restaurants were located on R deck. To make way for Jacques Cousteau's New Living Sea Museum, it required the removal of all boiler rooms, the forward engine room, both turbo generator rooms, the ship stabilizers, and the water softening plant. The ship's empty fuel tanks are filled with local mud to keep the ship's center of gravity and draft at the correct levels, and as these critical factors have been affected by the removal of the various components and structure, only the aft engine room and shaft alley at the stern of the ship would be spared. The remaining space would be used for storage or office space. Queen Mary was then deemed a building, as her electrical supply had been cut off on the inside. She's literally tied to the mainland, and most of her propellers except the one, were removed and her machinery gutted. And the red paint here would not have been as high as in the past. For example, we go back to here, it's much lower than, say, you look here. During this conversion, the funnels were removed because these are actually different. Just look at the color. Red, more orange. This is more like Queen Elizabeth's color. Now, actually, because the funnels were quite literally being held together in some places by 30 years of paint jobs. They were literally could have fallen at any point. And the area for the funnels where they were was needed to lift out the scrap materials from the engine and boiler rooms. And like I said, these are the replicas. So Diners Club initially owned it, and it was transferred to many, many owners throughout the years. And then on May 8th of 1971, she opened her doors as a hotel, not as a hotel, but as a, she was just open to tourists. Let's see here. Jacques Cousteau's Museum of the Sea opened on December 11th, 1971. The PSA Hotel Queen Mary opened on November 2nd, 1972. And then it was operated as Queen Mary Hyatt Hotel from 1970 to 1980. And then the system was changed in 1980 because it just seemed like it really wasn't working. And eventually, Disney bought the Queen Mary and they bought the Scorpion, which you really can't see from this picture, but if I were to scroll up to here, that's the Scorpion over here. They bought both of them. Now, this picture was clearly taken at least 30, 40 years ago. because the scorpion actually looks good. Nowadays, when you see in the scorpion video, it really does not. They actually closed it due to a raccoon infestation. So let's get to the fate. You can see here, it's looking a little worse for wear. Yes, there's a bird just sitting on a lifeboat tablet. Anyway, this is the lifeboat tablet. It would have been electronically activated, of course. You can see the lifeboat. It's riveted hull. Riveted end welding, like you can see, this is clearly riveted, but then you can see rivets here, but I believe these are welds right here in the middle. Just going down, you can see the seams. So, Queen Mary, at the moment, is closed. Has been for the last 2 years now, mostly because of the pandemic, but also because Urban Commons, the company that had been running it, actually filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and now Queen Mary is pretty much sitting there derelict. Now, for the first time in 40 years, Long Beach actually has full ownership over the ship. So what they've been trying to do is they've fortified the lower decks. We're working on restoring some of it and repairing it. And the lifeboats, because they're such a strain, they are very heavy. Were taken off the ship. Most of them were actually, I believe, all of them, except maybe 1 or 2, were scrapped in the parking lot. So they were scrapped over here, literally in the parking lot. Cranes took them right off the ship, put them in the parking lot, they were scrapped. Although what is going to happen to Queen Mary, we don't know. Now, actually, 2 or 3 of them, the originals of the Queen Mary, I believe, were actually kept on the Queen Mary, but the rest of them, I believe, were destroyed. Including ones from the Queen Elizabeth and I think the Saturnia, too, I think was destroyed. I believe that's the ship that, like, one had Queen Mary's lifeboats. Like, I had a lifeboat on the Queen Mary that was just moved there after a little while. But, yeah, this is where Queen Mary is right now. She is not open as a hotel at the moment, but hopefully she will be soon. I intend to go there at some point. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I realize it's quite a long one, especially with the 2 parts and all. But I hope you guys have enjoyed, and have a good one. And the Scorpion video will be out relatively soon, within the next couple days or so.